Hello, you're watching No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. It's a historic day. India has its first tribal president. Droupadi Murmu won the elections by a landslide today, resoundingly defeating the opposition's candidate Yashwant Sinha. But it's also a moment that has exposed the chinks in the opposition's armour. In the end, several opposition parties almost abandoned Yashwant Sinha, even Mamata Banerjee, who had first proposed his name. Today, the Trinamool Congress has announced that it will abstain in the vice presidential election, leaving the opposition camp in total disarray. The Trinamool is blaming the Congress party, and it says the way in which Margaret Alva's candidature was announced was undemocratic and that the TMC had not been consulted in advance. They've also said, interestingly, Derek O'Brien speaking to NDTV, that while the Congress is demanding the TMC's support when the Gandhis are summoned by the Enforcement Directorate, it's a two-way street. The Congress has not come out on the streets when Abhishek Banerjee was summoned by the Enforcement Directorate. Clearly, things in the opposition camp are not okay. The BJP's move to nominate a tribal woman seems to have caught them off guard. Some parties like the JMM, who are part of the opposition camp, had no choice but to support Droupadi Murmu. And now those divisions seem to have only exacerbated. Joining us now from the Congress party, senior leader Pawan Khera was with us this evening. Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, Member of Parliament from the Trinamool Congress, joining us at the top of this hour. Pawan, I'm going to be playing out Derek O'Brien's interview shortly, but you heard what he said. Very strong words used there against the Congress, saying that the TMC shouldn't be taken for granted. It has 35 MPs. What is your first comment on those remarks?
We don't take anybody lightly. Mr. Derek O'Brien knows better than this, so I don't know under what pressure is he when he makes such remarks. Nidhi, there is a power struggle going on within the TMC. We understand and appreciate the power struggle. It happens in almost all parties, so I don't want to comment on their internal matters. It is for the TMC to decide whether they have the stomach to take on Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah. We are standing with them. They need our help. We'll be with them. We'll fight for them also. They should not be under any doubt. As far as Sonia ji and Mamata ji are concerned, they have a very good rapport with each other. But I don't know what is the kind of power struggle going on within the party. I don't know what is the kind of pressure the old guard of TMC has from the new leadership of TMC, emerging leadership of TMC. And well, the ED has been trying to corner the leadership of TMC. So I don't know whether they are coming under pressure of the ED, whether they are under pressure of the power struggle going on within the TMC. It's not for me to comment on. I think Kakolidi would be in a better position to comment on that.
Well, you said actually quite a bit by not commenting. But Pawan Khera, the points that Derek O'Brien has made also on the fact that, today the Congress held a meeting of opposition parties to bring, get everyone together on the misuse of agencies like the ED against the opposition. And the TMC was absent from that. And his point was, you all don't come out on the streets when our leaders get questioned by the ED, but you expect us to come for you. And it's a two-way street. No. Is that a fair criticism?
No, it's not a fair criticism at all. We stood by them. If they'd asked us to come out on the streets for them, perhaps we would have. They didn't ask us. The fact of the matter, Nidhi, here is we went out of our way to support their senior leader, Yashwant Sinha ji, and his candidature. And we are happy that we did that. No complaints about that. So now, if Mamata ji and her party want to end up helping Mr. Dhankar, it's their choice. So I don't know what was this fight all about with Mr. Dhankar. Maybe there was no fight. I don't know. They are unanswered questions which perhaps history will answer, which perhaps Kakolidi in her honest moments would be able to answer without coming under any pressure of her leadership. I don't know. I don't have answers. It's for them to answer.
Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, would you like to sort of take some of those points that Pawan has raised? What has prompted this TMC outburst?
You see, when a decision is taken in our party, then the whole parliamentary party meets and everybody's opinion is taken and then a conclusion is drawn out. But we know in Congress, it is only one leader and a half, and we respect her. But whatever their leader says, the whole party echoes the same. Here we really felt that whatever behavior passed between our Honorable Governor and Chief Minister in the past few years was unpalatable and it didn't suit his chair. So when he becomes a candidate, then all of us, nearly 85% of the MPs present, objected to supporting him. As far as the other candidate is concerned, we were not consulted. If you have to maintain the unity of the opposition, then there has to be a consensus. So if there is no consensus, then what is the point of having a meeting or on a decision? How can you support a decision which is not through consensus?
It sounds like the TMC is having a bit of a tantrum, though, if you don't mind my saying that, because, at the end of the day, there's a sort of a bigger fight for the opposition here, isn't it? And today, by doing this, the TMC has sent a signal, no matter what you say, that the opposition is completely disunited. It's not sending the signal. I mean, you're all saying that, no, we are united, but how are you united? You're going to fight over Margaret Alva.
When the last meeting took place, 17 political parties had got together in the Constitution Club in New Delhi. But after that, did we find such a meeting in which it was convened by Congress and we were invited? It wasn't. But of course,
but Sharad Pawar had a meeting.
There is still time, and there are so many issues on which we can get together. But the opposition has to be really sincere in opposing. It is not only for the sake of saying that we are united opposition. Let them fight on the roads. Let them come out with the issues that are plaguing the country at the moment. Where do we see the Congress leaders, the leadership? Today they were out. But where did we see them? Suppose there is the highest number of unemployment now in the last 45 years. We see the GST going all disarray.
So you're saying they should come out onto the streets for that? Pawan, you want to take that?
There is no presence of Congress anywhere. So if the Congress wants to be a real opposition, they should come out on the road and oppose BJP.
No. I think Kakuridi is not perhaps watching news, or I think she's too confined to her constituency to be able to observe the fact that Congress party has always been on the roads, whether it was Hathras, whether it was Lakhimpur, whether it was Rafael, whether it was the farmers, whether it was COVID mismanagement and COVID relief operations, whether it was the farmers, whether it was the Alok Verma episode of CBI. I'll just refresh your memory, Kakuridi, because in the last 8 years, there has not been a single month where the Congress has not been out on the streets. But yes, we do miss our valued colleagues in the TMC. We want them on the roads with us. Unfortunately, they are too busy handling their own internal squabbles, because the entire city of Kolkata, when I visited the city, may I, Kakuridi, don't want to fight with you. Let's speak in our time.
Yeah,
when your turn comes, you speak.
Not with you.
Please don't interrupt. I would appreciate if you don't interrupt, and I promise I won't interrupt. When I was in Kolkata last month, the entire city was abuzz with talk of old versus young, open battle of the old with the young in TMC. You don't want to share it with the people, fair enough, that's your prerogative. Even I won't reveal many things that I have heard, and I'll also not reveal how we arrived on the candidature of Yashwant Sinha. It was accepted by all of us. So you should not comment on why Margaret Alva ji, she is a respected leader of the country. And if you don't want to help us and you want to help Jagdeep Dhankar ji, your prerogative again. But Nidhi, I would also like to respond to you. You should not use such strong words, opposition in a disarray. No, these are speed breakers. These are minor issues which we'll overcome, and with the help of Kakuridi, who insists that there is nothing wrong between the old and the young in TMC. But I have heard a slogan in Kolkata that right now, today's TMC is Abhishek Bachao, Congress Satao. That's the kind of TMC you have. You're trying to...
That's a very telling comment from you, because you're suggesting that this is about the ED.
We'll stand with you.
All right.
We'll stand by
you. So you're suggesting that this is Abhishek Banerjee coming under pressure from the ED. Kakoli Ghosh, Sastidar, do you want to take that?
you see, a lot of opposition leaders are coming under ED. I am sorry to say that today the national president and the member of Lok Sabha, Honorable Sonia Gandhi, was quizzed for more than 3 hours by the ED. So all the opposition leaders are being quizzed. Don't take only Abhishek's name. And whatever Mr. Khera is saying, I don't agree with him because I live in Calcutta. There is no slogan as trying to save Abhishek or something like that. Whenever there is this kind of haunting of the leaders by the agencies, then we are the only party. Mamata Banerjee is the only leader who comes out with strong statements saying that Bharatiya Janata Party has no positive role. They don't have
well, the entire Congress has courted arrest today.
Agencies.
So the entire Congress has courted arrest on the same issue today. Pawan, quick last 20 seconds I have before I have to move on.
Kakuridi, what Mamata ji says, we respectfully listen to her, but you have to walk the talk. You can't say, oh, the BJP is bad, but I'll end up helping Jagdeep Dhankar. Now that's, actions speak louder than words. The entire country will wait for your actions to speak whether you walk the talk or not. If you are opposed to the BJP, stand up. Stand up against their vice presidential candidate. Vote for Mrs. Margaret Alva and show it that you mean it when you say you oppose the BJP. This doesn't help. Just words don't help.
All right, let me thank both of you for joining us tonight and play out this interview that we did with Derek O'Brien just a couple of hours earlier. It was just as we were counting down to Droupadi Murmu's election result. Let's listen in. Derek O'Brien, quite a surprise announcement there. What happened?
Well, the question of voting for the BJP's candidate did not arise. So that is never an option. So my party just had, we actually only had two options. One is we don't get involved in this, or two is we support this candidate which was cooked up by some folks in Delhi. We were given 7 minutes notice or 10 minutes notice and you popped up with a name and you expect us to support the name. So we want opposition unity, but the largest opposition party and the communists, especially one communist leader who works overtime in Delhi, because it seems he has lots of time to work overtime. You can't cook up names and then expect us and take us for granted. Treat us as equals. We'll be working together from Monday on the floor of Parliament. Treat us as equals. Don't take Trinamool for granted. We didn't like that, the way the whole thing was handled. And the question of voting for the BJP's candidate, that was never on the table.
But I don't understand because, Sharad Pawar had called this meeting. It had been known for a few days that the meeting would be there. So how was this a last minute thing? Why weren't you at the meeting?
I don't want to on national television talk too much about what happens in the back channels, because that wouldn't be correct. Okay, but bottom line is that you call a meeting, you pop up with a name, everybody, then you're told we're having a press conference in 15 minutes. Okay, I want to be a little blunt about this. Trinamool Congress in the 2021 Bengal elections, that's the context. We took on the Congress and the CPM as an alliance. A. B. There are a few parties in Delhi, there are a few parties around the country, and I will mention them, like the DMK, like the NCP, like the JMM, like the RJD, who are electoral allies with the Congress party. Please draw a distinction between the TMC and these parties who we work together with very often. So there's a difference here between like-minded parties. Of course, we are all like-minded parties who oppose the divisive, bigoted ideology of the BJP, but not all like-minded parties are allies of the Congress party.
So you're miffed with the Congress? Is this about being, are you all miffed with the Congress then? Is this about being unhappy with them?
You see, this is not a a fight between a spouse where you say you're miffed with someone or you're not miffed with someone. This is serious. That's why I think for the first time since Abhishek Banerjee has been elected the National General Secretary, and we have one National General Secretary, what was significant today, obviously the day was very significant. 21st July is our annual Martyrs Day where we commemorate the memory of 13 martyrs who died. Abhishek Banerjee and himself, no parliamentary party leader or spokesperson, he himself did this press conference. We debated this in our parliamentary meeting with our 35 MPs. The chairperson of our parliamentary party was there. This is a call which we took. And I think we need to find the opposition, especially the Congress party, need to find the way forward where we need to find issues. You cannot,
But you're squabbling. I mean, what does that say about opposition unity? I mean, it's actually a joke, isn't it? I mean, there's so much disunity. You're all fighting amongst each other. What does that say about the state of the opposition? How will you all get together to take on the BJP in 2024?
I think the opposition has to get together. When we talk about opposition unity, please let us start with the elections of May 2021. What opposition unity? When Mamata Banerjee, in an election to be elected the third time Chief Minister of West Bengal, what opposition unity were we talking about? Where the Congress, the CPM and even the BJP on the ground were in cahoots against TMC. TMC is all for opposition unity. TMC needs no certificate about how ideologically we are opposed to the BJP. But there is a message which needs to be given. Please, we are not ready to be taken for granted. You can't have we tried for opposition unity. Let me, Ms. Razdan, if I may say so. We tried for opposition unity. Who called the meeting for the president election? We had the president candidate. I don't want to say too much on television because back channels, otherwise, there's a certain what is said in the back room often is said in the back room stays in the back room. Mamata Banerjee made every effort for opposition unity for the presidential election. Then we saw what happened there. So the vice president election is again half an hour, 15 minutes, one name popped up. We have nothing personal against any of against the vice president.
Derek O'Brien, come on, even in the meeting that Mamata Banerjee called, names were given. I mean, okay, Sharad Pawar's name was the name that was first proposed, but the names that came later were in the course of that meeting that was suggested to other parties. What's the big deal?
Please understand, I think you need to understand this. Why did Mamata Banerjee call that meeting? Who was the name which was already pre-selected for the meeting? Who requested Mamata Banerjee to call that meeting in Delhi? I shall leave these questions unanswered. Let's get back after that from the presidential election to the vice presidential election. Where did the name pop up of a former congresswoman or a governor or a minister? We're not getting into the merits of the name or the demerits of the name. We are getting into the opposition has to be united. The second largest opposition party today in parliament in the country, at the moment we are the second largest. We've got to give a clear message to the Congress party who have a style of working with the communists and their allies. We will get the opposition unity going. Treat us as equal partners. That's the way forward. Listen, this vice president election in any case is a foregone conclusion. The gentlemen who the BJP have put up, let's not get, I can do another half an hour program on that, but no. Ideologically, Trinamool needs no certificate from anybody saying, BJP. BJP ideology, we are fighting the Trinamool, we think we have the best chance. I can also talk about opposition unity in a couple of other states where we reached out. So I think let us be optimistic, let us find issues, common issues.
Okay, well, at the moment, the battle lines are drawn within the opposition camp itself very clearly. It's going to be interesting.
There's no battle lines. You tell me. If you are given on a WhatsApp 15 minutes notice saying name of the candidate is decided. Who is the name? Oh, that's the name.
Is that
Hey,
why
listen.
you all didn't attend the Congress's meeting on the ED today? The opposition meeting?
Okay, I'm glad you asked me that. I'm glad you asked me that. You know, it has to be two-way traffic. The whole mentality of the grand old party, and we want to work with the grand old party to try and we got to get the BJP out. But the grand old party, when ED, do you know National General Secretary of Trinamool Congress, how many times he's been called to by ED? Has anybody in the Congress party or any other Congress party reached out or even put out one tweet? So it has to work both ways. You want to call everybody to your room in Parliament. I'm saying this on record in your program. No, you can call your allies. You can call your allies. You cannot call political parties. We are like-minded parties. But like-minded parties have to be treated, who are independent parties. I think the other example on this, I'll give you one other example, who don't ally with the Congress, at least not till now, the TRS, the Aam Aadmi Party, the TMC. We are not allies of the Congress. So that is the only reason we have to look at it differently.
The TRS attended today's Congress meeting, ironically, and you all didn't, but you have a point that you have faced ED cases as well. Abhishek Banerjee has been at the receiving end. The Congress hasn't exactly stood up for other opposition leaders who faced the ED's action and expect support in return. So that's important.
One point.
Yeah, sure, Derek. Last point. Yeah.
Yes, sure. 1 point on TRS. Okay. TRS is now in the last few weeks or months we are seeing, and we welcome and we're very happy that they are strongly opposing the Modi government and their decisions. Please look at the track record of TRS in the last few years. It has been more closer to the government. I think I want to take this opportunity on your program, since you're discussing the opposition. I think the political pundits and the journalists also have to know, the enabler of the BJP is a regional party, the biggest enabler of the BJP. And nobody discusses them. They are above any discussion. Nor do they discuss the chief minister. Mr. Naveen Patnaik and the Biju Janata Dal are India's #1 enabling party to execute the bigoted, divisive agenda of the BJP. I would humbly suggest to everyone, while you're thinking, this is not just about Congress, TMC, opposition unity. Get the BJD and their spokespersons to come on television and ask them the direct question. They are the biggest allies of the BJP, and then Mr. Naveen Patnaik will go and take pretty pictures somewhere in the Vatican. Won't do. If you want to fight the BJP, come and fight the BJP inside Parliament and outside Parliament. And television channels are spending so much of time on opposition unity. Call out the two official allies. One is official, the other is unofficial. Biju Janata Dal, Naveen Patnaik is an official ally of the BJP. And number two, they're not official, they're unofficial, mostly, is Jagan Reddy's YSR.
Okay, well, so there goes any hope of getting them on board in the opposition camp. Yeah, you're right. They're not fence sitters. Certainly, you've been very blunt today, Derek O'Brien, in your full attack on the Congress and other parties as well. Thanks very much for joining us.
What is other parties, Nidhi? I first attacked the BJP. We have only attacked the BJP.
But by the way, I meant to ask you, Mamata Banerjee met Mr. Dhankar. And apart from asking her for support, what was that conversation like?
Asking her for support? We are not supporting Mr. Dhankar.
I mean, he asked, you may not do it. So what was that conversation like?
Yeah, the governor of a state has tea and biscuits with the chief minister. I mean, everything is not some complicated. The governor of the state had tea and biscuits with the chief minister. Yeah, and don't read too much into tea and biscuits. Don't read too much into tea and biscuits. I think you'll see the proof of the pudding when the new vice president also will become the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. And then
Well, good luck to you then. All that talk of pudding and biscuits. All right, Derek O'Brien, thank you very much for joining us on NDTV today.
Always.
Thank you.